May it please the court. Great afternoon, Your Honor. Before I begin argument, I would like to reserve 2 minutes of my time for rebuttal. Thank you. All right. My name is Kendrick Amerson, and I am representing Magnolia Fairfax, the wife of the decedent Linus Fairfax, and I am also representing Olivia Fairfax, the said 10-year-old daughter of the decedent and the wife of the other appellant, Magnolia Fairfax. This issue is before the Supreme Court because of the ruling of the Highland County, Virginia Circuit Court, erroneously ruling in favor of the appellee, Officer Jonathan T. Cotton, granting him a plea and bar on the defense of sovereign immunity. Also, they ruled in favor of the murder, saying that we failed to state a claim. This was also erroneous. The first issue presented is Officer Cotton is simply not protected by sovereign immunity. He pierced the government's veil of sovereign immunity when he went beyond the function and the scope of his job when he first stopped doing the helmet maneuver to the decedent Linus Fairfax, then laid him in the dirt and did nothing at all. Your Honor, next, he pulled out a pocket knife, which in most jurisdictions is considered a deadly weapon. And once he pulled out that pocket knife, he then elicited the 10-year-old appellant, Olivia Fairfax, in his unwarranted actions, as she frantically and cried while she held.
Seems like you're complaining about him in the second step for doing nothing, not complaining about him in the third step for doing something.
And yes,
if he had done nothing, would you have also sued him?
Yes, because he has a duty to render aid, as basic tort law says.
You
said he
was beyond the scope of his duties, but you now just told him he had a duty to render aid.
When he began the helmet maneuver, he had to use his best efforts, as tort law has taught us. He had to use his best.
Was he within the scope of his duties when he performed emergency medical services?
No, he was not. He was beyond the scope of his duties.
Was he within the scope of his duties when he performed the hunter?
Yes, he was within the scope of his duties when he performed the helmet maneuver.
Was he within the scope of his duties where in between those two things he did nothing and leave your client in the dirt, according to your argument?
When he did nothing, he stopped rendering aid. He did nothing. He breached his duty owed to the civilians when he stopped. Tort law has taught us that we have to use our best efforts to save. I don't know if you got.
Tell me why the Heimlich maneuver is within the scope of his duties and cutting the trachea is not.
Because one is an incision done by a deadly weapon, a knife, which we can infer from the facts. An incision done by a knife, that's not a pocket knife. That's not an incision. That's clearly a stab. And
Come on, counsel. Are you suggesting Officer Cotton intended to stab your client?
yes,
Didn't Officer Cotton have 8 years training as an EMT?
he hasn't practiced EMT in almost over a decade.
So what's the answer to my question?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so concerning the second element with the scope of his function, Officer Cotton went beyond the scope of his function and the government had no interest in that type of activity. The state had no interest in that type of activity because he pierced the government's veil when he pulled out a pocket knife, elicited the 10-year-old daughter, as I was stating, and then he pierced above where the cannon was lodged in the throat of the decedent.
Okay, but you're not suing him for negligence in causing death. So that's that. Whether he was right or wrong, the question is whether or not, for sovereign immunity purposes, he was exercising his own discretion within the scope of his duties under the control of his.
He went beyond his judgment and discretion with the scope of his duties when he decided to do advanced medical procedures, something done by a surgeon or a medical professional with medical equipment, not done by somebody with a pocket knife.
What would you have him do?
What would I have him to do? I would have him to continue to help me maneuver until the ambulance arrives.
So is that where we draw the line between, what is covered by his duty to render aid?
What is covered by his duty to render aid?
Maneuver and the cutting of the tracheotomy. Is this something done by a medical professional or is it something that is normally done by a non-professional? How do we draw that line?
The way you draw this line between what's done by a medical professional and what's done by a lay person, let's say an officer, in this scenario, you draw that fine line by saying basic CPR functions as in trying your best effort to use basic CPR to bring the decedent relief in this situation, you draw that in the sand. But when you take it to a step further, you take it to the step further of doing an incision, you have just pierced the throat of the decedent and you just pierced the government's protection that you were granted under the doctrine of sovereign immunity. Okay, with the next step, the degree of control. We learned about the degree of control, that if the degree of control is high, it supports sovereign immunity. But if the degree of control is low, it weighs in favor of us. The degree of control, if any degree of control, it was low. It was very low, because he was, as a police officer, he wasn't trained to pull out his field pocket knife and do what he did. This is nothing that was thought of by the government. The government had no control of his activities, and like we previously said, with discretion and judgment, they had no participation in these warrantless, unethical, unprofessional activities that he also did.
Would you suggest that we should have called someone affiliated with the state government and asked if it was okay if you performed a tracheotomy to try to save the person's life?
No, because it was an emergency situation, but I do suggest in an emergency situation he does what he's trying to do, which is the helmet maneuver. Now,
Just 2 days ago, I read an article about a Colorado man who drove off a bridge into a rushing river. And some good Samaritan jumped in to save him. And the guy, he was unsuccessful, did not save him. He was not a good swimmer. The guy who jumped in trying to save the victim was not a good swimmer. And they were bobbing on the water, and the family's watching, and they're hitting rocks and trying to get him ashore. Finally get to shore, and he dies. If we rule for you today, are we discouraging all the good Samaritans from trying to help out?
no, we're not discouraging all good Samaritans because he's not a Samaritan. He's an officer. He's a police
You
officer.
told me he was not an officer. You told me he was beyond the scope of his duties.
He was beyond the scope of his
So
duties.
he's not an officer, he's a private citizen. Are we gonna discourage good Samaritans from helping people they see in danger?
Since you agree with me that he was beyond the
I'm taking your premises as, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. Your premise is true, he's outside the scope of his duty. He's a good Samaritan now helping someone with EMT training. We want to discourage them from trying to help?
assuming arguendo, in this scenario that you are giving me with the Colorado situation, he was merely trying to save someone's life by using his body to save someone swimming. He didn't try to do something advanced, like pump his chest or cut his throat open to help him breathe to stay alive. We want Good Samaritan activity. We want that type of activity. I believe that Good Samaritan was in the right, whereas in our situation, he took it a step further. And these are two different parallels. And that's when I get to my second argument of intentional infliction of emotional distress. The claim of intentional infliction of emotional distress did not survive the murder. And it's reviewed de novo. And that means that what? We get a second bite of the apple, because the first bite did not taste well at all. When looking at intentional infliction of emotional distress, the first thing you look at is the intent and or recklessness that Officer Cotton displayed. You can find for intentional and or recklessness. Either one of those two will satisfy the first element of intentional infliction of emotional distress. This is where the intent factor comes in. When you first tell the 10-year-old daughter to close her eyes because she doesn't want to view this activity, you knew the gruesomeness of this activity when you didn't want her to view it. Then you demand her to come over and participate. When you demand her to come over and participate in this
Talk
activity,
about the third element.
the third, let's go to the third.
Yeah, because I'm having a hard time believing that their distress is due to viewing this as opposed to their distress is losing a husband and a father.
Okay, with the third element, that's the casual connection element. With the casual connection element, you must look causal connection element. You must look at, and I'm sorry, I'm running out of time. I want to answer your question if time is
I'll
out.
give you more time if you need it.
Okay, so when explaining the third element, which is the causal connection, when looking at the causal connection, you simply look at the proximate cause. You look at the proximate causation. When did she begin to cry? When did she begin to frantically cry? Olinda Fairfax began to frantically cry when he did this unethical procedure that created a superseding event that broke any causal chains that the appellees can allege about him originally choking. You take him as an eggshell plaintiff.
I'm not saying choking, I'm saying dying. I'm saying I lost a husband and a father, and I'm suffering distress from that.
she had severe emotional distress said by a therapist that showed that she was not able to eat food. I mean, she lost weight due to this situation. She also missed school, missed normal activities throughout the day, and the medication just simply isn't helping. And therefore, in conclusion, wrapping up the third element and everything, this claim should have easily survived the demur because it doesn't meet the standard of possible, but on its face, we stated a claim that was plausible, and in my opinion, is probable. More than likely this occurred. So whether we agree or disagree, or you're not convinced that he's responsible for the severe emotional distress, on demur, only thing we want to do is be heard. And we want this to show that we have minimal inferences that me and the appellee disagree with. And these minimal inferences show that this claim should have survived a demur. Thank you.